are having a good day so far. All right, so today we'll be doing our grade 1 English lesson on adjectives that compare. So we'll be doing our grade 1 lesson on adjectives that compare. And before we start, we are going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged into aplusstudents.ca, with our username as well as our password. And then we are going to select the subject of language arts and then grade 1. Once we've selected the subject of language art grade 1, we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of adjectives that compare. So in our previous lesson, we did adjectives, right? And we said that adjectives, it tells us about the noun, right? It tells us more about the noun. It's like the same as saying it describes a noun, right? So nouns, it either tells us about, it names people, it names places, it names things, right? And it names animals. So an adjective, it either describes people, places, animals, or things, right? Or more like it tells us more about people, places, animals, or things. And when it comes to adjectives, right, that compare, right, we're going to find out today about the two different ways in which we can compare adjectives, right? We can compare adjectives in a comparative way as well as a superlative way. So we specifically said that our chapter is adjectives that compare. Our subject is English, which is language arts, grade 1. And our focus lessons under the chapter of adjectives that compare is compare pictures using comparative and superlative adjectives, and to identify comparative and superlative adjectives. So that is going to be our two focus lessons under the chapter of adjectives that compare. And we are doing our lesson on A plus students.ca. So we are doing our lessons on A plus students.ca. So if we want to go back, recap and go over the chapter as well as the lessons, it is basically written on the whiteboard, which is adjectives that compare. Subject is English language arts, grade 1, and the lessons is to compare pictures using comparative and superlative adjectives and to identify comparative and superlative adjectives. All right, so comparative adjectives, right? It compares to people, animals, places, or things, right? So remember I said that an adjective, it tells us more about people, animals, places, or things. But in this case, comparative adjectives, like when we are comparing, it's like when you're comparing things, right? So if you compare two people, animals, places, or things, that specific word, right, it ends in ER. So remember we said we have a comparative adjective and we have a superlative adjective. So comparative adjectives, it compares two animals, two people, two places, or two things, and they end in ER. For example, Andy is taller than his sister. right? So here they are comparing these two siblings in height, right? Who is taller than the other? So they're saying that Andy is taller than his sister, right? Which means that our normal base adjectives, right? So instead of just saying Andy is tall, so instead of saying Andy is tall, they are now comparing how tall Andy is to his sister. So if they are comparing two people and then they add an ER to that word, so it becomes taller, right? And as you can see, an ER was added. And that compares to people, to animals, to places, or to things. And in this case, we are comparing two people. Then we have a superlative adjective, right? And a superlative adjective, it compares more than two people. So it compares more than two people, animals, places, or things. And a superlative adjective, it usually ends in est. So we said Andy is tall, right? And if we compare him to someone else, right, to another person, we say he's taller. But now if we are comparing him to more than one person or more than two people, right? CA says he is the tallest person in his class, which means that there's more than two people in the class, right? So we add the EST. So now it becomes tallest. So we added EST. So which means that comparative, right, means that we are comparing two people or to places or to animals or to things. And then we have a superlative adjective is where we're comparing more than two people, animals, places, or things, and that ends in est. All right, so now we're going to a+students.ca. And we're going into our first lesson, which is using or comparing pictures using comparative and superlative adjectives. So when it comes to adjectives, so once again, a description or a breakdown of um, the two different adjectives that compare. We said we have a comparative adjective and we have a superlative adjective. So we said some adjectives they compare people, animals, places, or things, right? And we said that we have a comparative adjective which compares to people, animals, places, or things. And we said this ends in er. And there we made an example of Andy that is taller than his sister. And if you look at this picture, there we can see is Andy. So over there is Andy, and this is his sister. So we can see that Andy is taller than his sister, right? So we are comparing two people in this case. If we were to compare maybe the ruler, right? Say if we have one ruler, there's one ruler, and then we have another ruler, right? So now if we look at these two things, then we can say the one ruler is longer. Or let's say it's long, right? But the other one is longer, right? So the one is long, but the other one is longer. Or this one is short, right? But then you have the other one that is shorter. If we look at another example where we're comparing animals, right? Then we can maybe say the one dog barks loud, right? So the dog barks loud, right? But the other dog barks louder, right? So it's loud and louder. We're comparing the two dogs. And we said it ends in ER. Then we said we have a superlative adjective that compares more than two people, animals, places, or things. And as we can see, if we look at an example of Andy, again being taller, right? So there we have Andy, and there we have the learners in his class. So Andy is the tallest amongst all of those people. All right. If we look at these two pictures, right? There's a boy and there's a baby, right? Who is older? Who is older? So we can say the one is old, right? But if we compare these two, we can say this boy with the red cap is older than the baby. So older, and there's our word older. And we added our ER because we are comparing two people. If we look at these two forms of, let's say, transport, right? If you are riding with a bicycle and you are walking, which one do you think might be faster? Is it the one on the bicycle or the man walking? Which one is faster? So is it the man on the bicycle that is faster or the man that is walking? So we can basically say the man on the bicycle is faster than the man walking. And there we have the word faster, and we added the word ER because we are comparing two people. So that it's a comparative adjective. All right, if we look at these two, which is the sheep as well as the little turtle tortoise, right? Which one is faster, right? or which one is slower? So we can say this one here at the bottom is slower than the sheep. So we are comparing these two animals, right? So we see that if we compare, we only add ER. All right, let's go to our test. So which one is smaller? If you look at these two forms of transport, which one is smaller? Is it the bakkie on top or is it the truck at the bottom? Which one is smaller? So we need to select one of these two that is smaller because we are comparing these two forms of transport. Which one is smaller? All right, so if we choose the form of transport that is smaller, we can choose the top one, the proper one, right? That one is smaller than the truck. All right. All right, so here we have the chickens, right? Which one is fatter? Is it the first one or the second one? Fast, which one is fatter? Is it the first one, number one, or number two? Fatter. All right, so if we choose the top one, right, or the first one, then we can say that one is fatter because we're comparing these two chickens. Which one do you think is louder? Is it a little cat or is it the lion that is louder? Which one is louder? A cat or a lion? So we must say which one is louder. When it either meows or roars. Loud. If it either meows or roars, which one is loud in sound? All right, so if we look at the bottom one, which is the lion, yes, so the lion is louder. So well done. The louder is louder. Which one is smaller? So which bird is smaller? Is it the one on top or the one at the bottom? Smaller. A small bird. Which one is smaller? So we may say which one is smaller between these two birds. All right, so if we look at this one, that beautiful purple and green one is a smaller bird. And which one is faster? Is it the one on top or the sheep at the bottom? We need to say which one is faster. So we can say it is the sheep that is faster. All right. So that is us comparing basically two people, animals, places, or things, and we call that a comparative adjective, right? So now we're going to identify the comparative as well as the superlative adjectives. Yeah, so well done. That bird on top was the smallest. So once again, we see that some adjectives, right, they compare people, animals, places, or things. And we see it with the comparative adjectives, which is adjectives that compare to people, places, animals, or things. They end in er. So they end in er. That is, we're only comparing to people, to animals, to places, or to things. And then we have a superlative adjective, right? Which compares more than two people, animals, places, or things. And they end in est. So if we, for example, compare, let's say, two rulers, right? So if we compare two rulers, then we can say the one ruler is longer than the other, right? So the one is longer because we're comparing that two and we added the er. But if we're comparing that one ruler to all the other rulers that is there, maybe in the box, then we can say this one is the longest. And we added the est. Or if we look at this picture, right, we compared Andy in height, where we said that Andy is taller than his sister. So Andy is taller. So Andy is taller than his sister, right? So taller, because we're comparing the two. But we can say his sister. So his sister is, we can maybe say his sister is shorter. So his sister is shorter than him. So shorter, right? So the same with this picture here at the bottom, right? Where we said that Andy is the tallest. That is Andy. And he is the tallest. So Andy's the tallest amongst all of his friends. But if we look at his sister over there, right? And we can say his sister is the shortest in class. And there we can see the est because we compared her in height to all the others in class. All right. Now it says we need to find the adjective that compare. If we look at the sentence, right, it says, today is the hottest day so far. Today is the hottest day so far. So if we look at that sentence, which one is the adjective that compares? Today is the hottest day so far. Which word within that sentence is it shows the adjective that compares? Today is the hottest day so far. So if we identify the adjective that compare, then we can say hottest is the adjective that compare, and this is the superlative adjective. So this is the superlative adjective, right? It is the hottest day so far, meaning that we are saying that this is the hottest day, let's say, amongst all the other days so far. Your cake is sweeter than Abby's. What is the adjective that compares with in that sentence? Your cake is sweeter than Abby's. Your cake is sweeter than Abby's. So if we identify the adjective that compare, and then we can say it is sweeter, right? It's comparing the two people's cakes, your cake to Abby's cake. And this is a comparative adjective, comparing two people's cakes. So it's a comparative adjective. Pat is the sweetest boy I know. Pat is the sweetest boy I know. So we need to find the adjective that compares within that sentence. Pat is the sweetest boy I know. All right, so if we look at the adjective that compare, we can say sweetest. So Pat is the sweetest boy I know. All right, now we're going to our test. All right, so now we're going to find the adjective that compares. We're going to find the adjective that compares. Snowy is the whitest goat of all. So Snowy is the whitest goat of all. We are comparing Snowy to all the other goats. Is the adjective whitest or is it goat? We need to choose the adjective that compares. Whitest, which is the first one, or goat. What is the adjective that compares? So Snowy is the whitest goat of all. All right, so if we compare, then we can say or identify or the adjective that compare, we can say whitest is the adjective that compares. So whitest is our adjective that compare. Gabby's homework was harder than Beth's homework. Gabby's homework was harder than Beth's homework. We need to say the adjective that compare or find the adjective that compares. Is it homework or is it harder? Homework or harder? The adjective that compares. All right, so if we find the adjective that compare, we can say harder is our adjective that compares. This is the highest hill in Oakland. We need to find the adjective that compares. Is it highest or is it Oakland? Highest or Oakland? All right, so we can choose highest being our adjective that compares. All right, so now we're going to say, does the adjective compare to or more than to? So does it compare to or does it compare more than to, which is to animals, animals, people, places, or things? Full speak. So we need to look at the adjective in bold. Does it compare two pigs or does it compare more than two pigs? Phil's pig is fatter than Dave's pig. Phil's pig is fatter than Dave's pig. All right, so if we compare, right, then we can say we are comparing two pigs, right? Phil's pig and Dave's pig. So we're comparing two pigs. Two pigs are being compared. Our pool is warmer than Dana's pool. So our pool is warmer than Dana's pool. So are we comparing two pools or are we comparing more than two pools? And in this case, we are comparing two pools because we are comparing our pool and we're comparing Dana's pool. So we're comparing our pool, which is one, and we're comparing Dana's pool, which is two. My balloon is bigger than your balloon. So my balloon is bigger than your balloon. Are we comparing two balloons or are we comparing more than two balloons? So if it is bigger, then we are comparing my balloon to your balloon, which means that we are comparing two balloons, which is my balloon and your balloon. All right, now we're going to our test. We need to say if it is comparing two pools or more than two pools, right? Our pool is warmer than Dana's pool. So our pool is warmer than Dana's pool. Are we comparing two pools or more than two pools? Our pool is warmer than Dana's pool. Are we comparing two pools or more than two pools? All right, so we are comparing